7 million years ago, before history had words, before fire had a spark, before even the first true human had taken shape, the world was a different place. Africa's skies stretched wide and unbroken, the forests deep and endless. Strange beasts moved across the land, some familiar, others long forgotten. And somewhere in that wilderness, something extraordinary began. Imagine standing in a forest where the air hums with insects and giant apes swing through the canopy. On the ground, saber-toothed cats stalk in the shadows, and herds of antelope graze nervously on the edges of clearing. It is not yet a world ruled by humans. But in this time, in these wild lands, the very first spark of us was forming. Meet Sahelanthropus tchadensis, perhaps the oldest hominin we know, a creature walking the fragile line between ape and human. Its skull, discovered in Chad, tells us a story. A small brain, heavy brow ridges, but with a surprising secret. The angle of its spine suggests it may have walked upright. Think about that for a moment. The act of standing, of looking at the horizon, may have begun here, in the silence of an ancient forest. But life was not easy. 7 million years ago, Africa was shifting. Forests were shrinking. Grasslands were spreading. Rainfall came and went like a fickle promise. For creatures like Sahelanthropus, survival was a question of adaptation. Could they climb trees and still walk on land? Could they forage for fruit yet search for roots and leaves when drought stripped the forests bare? Each day was a gamble between hunger and survival, predator and prey. Narrator. Perhaps they wondered, in whatever primitive way they could, where do we go now? Where will tomorrow's food be found? In the shadows of the Miocene, danger was never far away. Crocodiles lurked in rivers that cut through the savanna. Enormous birds of prey circled above. Packs of hyena-like hunters prowled the tall grass. To walk upright was to risk exposure, but it was also to see farther, to notice threats sooner, to spot food across the plain. It was a gamble that may have rewritten destiny. And as the millennia turned, other early hominins would follow. Auroran tchadensis, the Millennium Man, in the hills of Kenya. Bones shaped for climbing but also for steps on the ground. Ardipithecus, 4.5 million years ago, with hands for grasping, feet partly made for walking. Each one a page in the unfinished story of us. But here is the mystery. These creatures were not yet human. They did not build fires. They did not make tools. They lived in a fragile balance with the wild, neither masters nor victims, but something in between. And yet, hidden within them, was the seed of every poem, every empire, every voyage across oceans. Think of it. Our story begins not with kings or warriors, not with language or cities, but with small creatures, standing uncertainly on 2 feet, scanning a horizon they barely understood. That first step upright was more than a posture. It was a rebellion against the forest, a gesture toward the unknown. And perhaps it was curiosity, our oldest inheritance, that pushed them forward. To look beyond the next tree, to cross into the tall grass, to venture where no ape had gone before. That curiosity, fragile and instinctive, would one day carve stone into tools, paint color onto cave walls, and carry spacecraft beyond the stars. 7 million years ago, the Earth did not know us, but it carried within it the whispers of what we would become. Life was raw, precarious, always at the edge of survival. Yet, from those struggles emerged the lineage that would change the planet forever. So when you stand on 2 feet today, when you watch the sun sink below the horizon, when you feel the pull of distant lands and unexplored mysteries, remember this. You are echoing a choice made by beings who lived and died long before memory, who dared to walk upright into a dangerous world. And in that simple act, life itself began to lean toward humanity.